West, but it's coming as a price. LeBron has missed only 2 games this year. He's played nearly 1,800 minutes as he continues to climb the all-time minutes played list, including playoffs. He's played over 58,000 minutes. That's the 3rd most all-time. Only Karl Malone and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played more. And LeBron is already the all-time leader for playoff minutes. It's a skewed stat because they have more rounds of playoffs now than they used to. But not only do we have the great Doris Burke with us, but Jalen is back and better than ever. Good morning. We've been talking a little bit, and Doris has made a terrific point over the last 2 days about the usage of LeBron over this, ceremonial second half of the season as they work towards the playoffs. What should they do?
So LeBron James has Mount Rushmore all-time great type of goals happening as well. He wants to be the all-time leading scorer in the NBA. You can't be missing regular season games if you're going to catch Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. We want the best players to value the regular season. LeBron James does that. Doris Burke and I hate load management. Okay, LeBron James does not do that. So how you take care of business is you get a lead in the West, you secure the #1 seed, and then you rest your best players. That's how this is done.
So I just made a supposition on a prior segment, and I want your take on it. We've spent the last several seasons talking about how LeBron James conserves energy on the defensive end of the floor. Valid point. He's been better on that end this year. More effort, more consistent. My supposition may be this. Lowest minutes he's ever played, so Frank has done a good job. But his average shot distance is the biggest it's ever been, or in 10 years. He's taking more threes, fewer free throws than ever in his career. Could he be managing the game on the offensive end by the way he's playing?
Absolutely he is, because he's not, as you mentioned, he's not driving to the basket. He's not taking the necessarily pounding that he normally takes. But also, I think the Lakers actually rely on LeBron James too much. This is a good problem when you have an all-time great player, but he's 35. They need him to lead the league in assists. They need him to be one of their best three-point shooters. They need to be the go-to guy. And he basically feeds Anthony Davis constantly. They don't necessarily feature Anthony Davis where he's creating offense for others.
But the Lakers without LeBron,
we talked about this,
makes you feel like they do need to rely on him as much as they do.
It's so true, and to your point, so we had numbers yesterday. Basically, Jalen, they are almost plus 11 points with him off the floor. With him on the floor, and -3 without him on the floor. That is basically equivalent to the difference between the 73-win Warriors and this year's Bulls and Wolves. Think about that.
Wow. I got to give you a name that isn't being discussed a lot with the Lakers, that if they're going to achieve their goals, has to play great basketball. That's Kyle Kuzma. We're going to talk a lot about LeBron. We're going to talk a lot about Anthony Davis. But when the playoffs come, you know what's going to happen when LeBron James and Anthony Davis run a pick and roll? They're either going to switch it or they're going to double it. They're going to take Anthony Davis away on the roll, and then you're going to be throwing it backside to somebody else. That guy has to be Kyle Kuzma, who can be a shot maker off the dribble. They got a lot of specialists. Bradley can give you D. Green can give you a D, spot up and make a shot. But they need guys that can create shots off the dribble. And I want to see more minutes for Caruso as well.
Will Kyle Kuzma's defense hold up over the long haul of a second-round series in the NBA?
Yes, I think it will, because there's always one player on the other team that you can hide him on. Like, for example, if they're playing against the Clippers, you'll try to put him on Lou Will, for example.
Right.
All right, we will have much more on this as we go. The two, Doris and Jalen, will weigh in on a bunch of other topics as our morning continues. But there is one quarterback whose business we have not yet minded this morning.
And then, Greenie, there's Phillip Rivers. Last week, the Chargers and Phillip Rivers agreed to part ways, which means he'll hit the market also as a free agent. And this week, his former teammate, Melvin Gordon, speculated where Rivers may land this offseason. Gordon telling CBS Sports Network, I think he goes to the Colts. I don't know. That's just my thought. He has connections. He came from here, and we had him, and he's the offensive coordinator there. Of course, Nick he's talking about. They run the same playbook, so it'd be easy. He could come right in, and they'd be telling guys what to do. He knows what's going on already. And obviously, they have the history with Frank Reich as well, so it'd be an easy plug-in. I think that history with Frank Reich is really important there. And Dan Graziano, in your notes today, you said that Melvin Gordon is a pretty good analyst. Yeah. What do you think about, in all of this shuffling that we have, about Phillip Rivers ending up with the Colts?
Yeah, he's putting 2 and 2 together, and it makes sense for all the reasons that Melvin lists there. When you look at it from the Colts end, they have Jacoby Brissett for 1 more year. Came out of last year, and the GM said, the jury's still out. So they don't know if that's, the long-term solution or even the 2020 solution. They have a team that they think is good enough to compete. Had some injuries at the wide receiver position last year, but has one of the best offensive lines in the league. When you look at Phillip Rivers the last 2 years with the Chargers, some of the worst pass protection statistically in the entire league. So the Colts said maybe we can get more out of Phillip Rivers than they did because we can keep him upright. So if the Colts decide to go this way, if they decide they're a quarterback away from Super Bowl contention, this makes a lot of sense in theory. Acho is going to shoot down.
Here's my thing. If the Colts are a quarterback away, Phillip Rivers isn't that quarterback. He's just not that good. And it's time in the year 2020 that we accept the fact that our heroes of the early 2000s aren't that special anymore. And it pains me to say because they're the guys I looked up to and fell into the game of football with. We talk about Phillip Rivers and his offensive line. Well, in 2019, he threw 13 interceptions with a clean pocket. He was worse with a clean pocket than Pat Mahomes was under duress. So I think we just all need to acknowledge that while Phillip Rivers has had a legendary career, Phillip Rivers is no longer legendary, and he's not the answer for a Colts team that's ascending.
Acho, I see it differently, and here's why. Phillip Rivers may not be ideal, but he's incrementally better than Brian Hoyer. So
he's a backup.
No, not necessarily. What I'm saying is they've amassed a really good team on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Jacoby Brissett got hurt last year. This will bring out the best in Brissett and let the best player play. And when you're getting older and you have the deficiencies that Phillip Rivers has, a good offensive line will maximize what he has left. He may give him a better chance to win next year. Not ideal, but it's better than what they have.
I don't know, though, that Phillip Rivers, the great Phillip Rivers, is going to compete with Jacoby Brissett. Bear in mind, Jacoby Brissett, he's still a young quarterback who had a 3-to-1 touchdown interception ratio last year. Do you even want to bring in that type of turmoil? And we all know about Phillip Rivers' ego.
It's not turmoil, it's competition.
Yeah.
We have to leave it here for the moment. I do think it's an interesting question because Phillip Rivers is going to the Hall of Fame, but is it over for him right now? Sometimes if you're the last person to know it, that's not a great place to be. As we continue here, over the next month, the possibility exists for a humongous quarterback shuffle around the sport. We will go through where all the biggest names will land. Predictions coming up next. You're watching Get Up on ESPN.